holidays, and welcome to another episode of Politicking. There are some fire guests joining me today, all the way from pastors to rappers. I'm glad to be joined by a special guest from New Era Detroit. Today, we are discussing institutions and how they are or not positively impacting our communities. It's my hope that through this conversation, we're able to challenge the way we think, live, and participate within the Detroit community. It's a mind state. We have to stop being reactive and more proactive. Some of us need to give more and take less. It's important for us to become unified and strategic in both our goals and orientation. In light of the holidays, we can all relate to the institution of family, as we all come from somewhere, and while some are more traditional than others, we embrace them. So follow this conversation at hashtag It's a Mind State. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I'm so excited to be joined by these awesome guests today. First, I'm just gonna kick it off with my mentor, awesome friend, Jay Hill. He's a pastor, he's an empowerer, and he's also a community advocate. Hello, Jay, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm awesome. We're also joined by Jasmine King. She's an educator, a mogul, and also an alchemist. Jazz?
Hi, King. Thanks for having me.
And last but not least, we have a special guest representing New Era Detroit, James Skrill Eberhart Jr. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
It's good to have you. He's an optimist and also a visionary. Y'all ready to kick off this conversation?
Yes, we are.
So, we're talking about institutions. We interact with institutions every day, from education to church, family. In the city of Detroit, do y'all think that these institutions are helping or hindering us as people?
You want to go down the line with me?
Right.
We can start from the youngest.
Would that be me?
That would be you.
Yeah, I do think that religion, education, and community development are, it's not hindering the Detroit. I think it's actually helping us in a way. I think that more blacks are getting familiar and with trying to help out the community and also giving back to the community. So I don't think those institutions are helping us. It hinders us in some ways when we're not knowledgeable, I would say.
I look at the institutions that we have right now, as far as like the church, education, what was a couple of the other key ones, health. Those situations right now inside of our community is hindering us inside of our communities due to the fact of the lack, like she said, the lack of knowledge of these institutions, the structure, the root of how they were built.
I think it could be both sided. So there are some institutions, the church I could talk about, that there are some churches that's not doing their job for a community. That's not why it was orchestrated. It was orchestrated to not allow government to take care of people, but the church should be doing a better job. And as far as, just like you mentioned, health, we're dependent on people to provide services for us, but the key thing he said is that our people perish because of lack of knowledge. And when you don't have the knowledge of something, then you're ignorant to what can be changed for you as other individuals inside of your community.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree.
And so, because I hear y'all, I work with education, and so, I definitely feel that, education can't be a hindrance, right? It's something that's supposed to get you to the next level, and a lot of people believe that education is that, that area that you can take to become successful and to, better yourself. But as you all are mentioning, it's as if these institutions are being ran and filtered by people who don't have the best interests of people at heart. Yeah. And I think that that's kind of where we're looking at when we're saying, what are these institutions really doing? And so when we think about Black progress, what does that look like? And I always have this tough battle because we live in America. And when we know what America was founded on, and when we think about colonization, and we think back to slavery, just how we got here, and we're dealing with slavery right now in Libya, everybody posting and talking about it. Does that work? Does Black progress work within the framework of our American society?
I believe Black progress works, but I think relationally, it needs to be beyond. I think the greatest divide of anything is the color of our skin. Mm-hmm. because I don't think everyone that is the opposite of us is enslaving or providing less than for people. Now, there are some people of power who do those things, but then it's just a point of we have to get beyond that image and that divide. I think one of the greatest things that is used in life is division. And if we want to multiply, even in our race, we have to be able to sit down and have intentional conversations with someone that might live on it's even if you look at it from when I'm not from Detroit, you look at it from the west side to the east side. There's division in that.
Yes,
You live on
yes.
the east side,
Yeah.
you live on the west side, you go to Cass, you go to King,
Yep.
so there's always this divide, and things like that, and so I look at it from the framework is how you're coming into the situation to be able to build a relationship with whatever it is.
And kind of to play off that, I think Black progress looks like mental health, like stable mental health. I think that a lot of blacks have issues, like I say, to being able to mentally sustain. Like, we don't know what we're doing. Like, we're just out here. We've been hurt. We've been targeted. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've been ambushed. And we don't know what to do. So Black progress to me would look like someone who is aware of their traumatic childhood issues and certain things that they've been through that are willing to make a change. I don't think it has nothing to do with luxury cars, or weaves and lace fronts or nothing of that nature. Like, I don't think that looked like progress. I think what progress looks like is, like I say, just being able to understand that we have these barriers and we have to overcome them.
I mean, we all touched in like the key components of Black progress, and like she was just saying, mental health is real big in Black progress due to the fact that in order to change anything inside of our community, Black progress starts with your mindset. And if we don't change our mindset, we are inside an environment that we was brought into. It's just like science. You have a host. Our minds is the host, and you have a parasite inside your mind that is the culture around you, which is white culture. So if we don't know what Black culture is and don't know our culture, we can't identify with Black success inside our communities. So we have to take our mindset back. So white culture has that mindset of, they have taught us like to hate each other, to not invest into our communities, not to be politically involved inside, politically inactive inside our communities. But we have to have a Black mindset where it's love each other. If I'm broke, guess what? I'm gonna try to help you, regardless if I'm down. That white mindset is, well, I'm broke, I'm about to rob you. That was that white culture that was pushed into us and programmed into us. So in order to have Black progress, it's all a mindset. We have to change the way we think, the way we interact, and the way we communicate with each other.
And so, I mean, we're looking at white culture, and again, understanding that division, it ain't everybody, right? But here, I'm looking at our president. Trump, to me, is the epitome of white supremacy and what the nation was founded upon, in the fact that he can tell us to our face, I ain't gonna always tell the truth. I believe this, like he's bringing up now again about Barack and not being a citizen and what this means. And I think that it's just crazy to me because the more he speaks, we get division. And one of the things that I'm learning is in 2017, everybody got to fight. But why is it that when blacks want to fight against certain things, or when we want to be, a part of these conversations, we're blackballed? Like, for instance, with the NFL protests, we're out here telling people, you need to be fired for protesting against something that didn't even start on what the propaganda is promoting.
Exactly.
And I just want to know, what is this about? Why is it that blacks are always blackballed in this whole fight of trying to get progress and trying to speak out against the things that hinder us?
Well, I guess I'll speak because I definitely have something to say about that. I really feel like the reason why we do that is because of the nature of how we were raised. The reason why I don't dislike Trump. The reason why is because I think he's just bringing hatred and everything to the forefront. That has already been here. We've already been dealing with those battles. Like, to see Trump as the face of the president, it's in your face. So a lot of people are having a hard time with dealing with it because, mind you, like when we grow up, even within our homes, you're taught to, don't tell on nobody. Don't stand, what I'm saying? Fight. Like, we don't know that getting into like politics or getting into education and learning these things to help our community is what we should be doing. We don't know that, again, like I said, from our parents and also from outside of the family. Like it's hard. Like you get, like think about when you get picked on or something as a young kid. I think a lot of us had those experiences, you know what I'm saying? Like we were, like now, like things that we're getting plastered all on the TVs for, we used to be ashamed of. Yeah. Like having assets and certain things, like with black women, and like it's crazy. I'll pass it along.
I mean, it's deep.
All of it is.
I mean, and then it's deep due to the fact that I come from a different perspective of, dealing with the laws and, the ordinance, because that's totally different. Law, ordinance, and all that, and citations, that wording is totally different. But with them passing this down, from federal levels and with being active in your community on different forefronts, I didn't face, police brutality personally 2 times this year. So it's like it hits me totally different because you are from your experience, like you said, your childhood trauma, like we was talking about your trauma, your mental states and different things like that. But like being blackballed inside of society with Trump right now, you got to look at everything. You got to look at, we have a $1.3 trillion spending power, which economically we have. But what is power? See, Trump is showing us what power is.
Exactly.
Power is something that you have the rights. You can respond, but you can deliver a consequence. So he's showing off his power of what he have at that level of the corporation. So when we look at $1.3 trillion, that's not a power. That's a disposable income.
Exactly.
So we have to start looking at what our power is. Our power is taking our money and holding on to it. Stop spending our money. We flaunt that money around all the time. We say it all the time. We got a $1.3 trillion. I mean, I was one. I was looking at like, we $1.3 trillion. We the big bad, you know what I'm saying? We the wolves out here. We got the money. But it's really how can you organize and keep that money and sustain it inside your community? That's real power. That will change everything because nothing's gonna change inside America with us because America was built off our ancestors, off our history, off our economics, off of everything. So in order to change something, we can't really look at the integration road, like how we have to remember Martin Luther King, before he passed away, he said, my dream was a nightmare. Yeah. We always forget that side of, Martin Luther King before he passed away, because he seen what integration was doing. Because you had, what people say, your coons and your Uncle Toms and different things like that. So we have to look at that mindset, and we have to really change that mindset. So it all comes back to us, which is self-accountability.
So I hear what you're saying. It's not like I don't agree with parts of it, but I look at it from the perspective this way, that even before we were here, who was here first? Who was here? We weren't here first. Yeah. So we got to look like culturally, we're a part of what is happening in America. We were brought here in a certain sense, but if you were born in Africa, there were people in power, and once a person, because one thing that's never going to leave is money, sex, and power. It's always going to be here. No matter what culture you are, it's going to be a dominant thing. If you have the resources, you're going to dominate someone lesser than you. Because if you lived in Africa, they fight over a darker skin or a lighter skin, right? And so, but even here, is there definitely injustice? Without a doubt. But I look at it from my framework this way. That diversity is necessary to bring change. But it's how you handle the situation with the person who's done you wrong. Because people deal with pain in a lot of different ways. We got kids raised up, they've been taught, pick something up, hit them upside the head. That's the way you handle conflict. Just like you said, don't tell my business, don't snitch. Well, if something directly happens to your family, you're going to want to know what happened to your family. Right? And then some people say, well, if you're involved in it and then you tell on it, then you being a snitch. Well, some people don't even understand the face of the situation that they're in until the consequence comes. And I think that we're dealing with a consequence of generation after generation after generation. Right. But now our stability in our own thinking, just like you said, of changing your mind makes a difference. And so I look at it from this framework. We might not agree on our spiritual stance, on us how a man should handle his business, but at the end of the day, we're supposed to love you enough. I got to respect myself before I can even respect you. You know, and I don't agree. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I didn't. You know, I didn't vote for President Obama. And my parents had an issue because I didn't vote for the first black president. But there was things that was in his policies I just didn't agree with. There's things in Trump's policies I didn't agree with. But then if I look at the house that I live in right now, there was a man who called me on the phone and gave me a house. He didn't look like me. He wasn't doing it because it was a pity or anything like that. He was led to do it. So there are great people out here, but if we're not being intentional to build relationship, we'll never know.
And so with that, I mean, and I totally hear y'all. I think that it's just about how we're kind of coming at this and what it looks like, right, in 2017. And I think that the more conversation is around, are they scared? Because, I mean, in October this year, they leaked this thing about black identity extremism. And I'm thinking, by the way that they describe it, politics can fall under black extremism. You know what I'm saying? Like, what does this mean? And I think that we haven't seen this type of targeting of black folks since the 60s and 70s. You know, when we had like the Black Power movement going on. And I think that there's an awakening going on that's trending now, right? And we're in this era of trends. Everybody want to jump on a bandwagon. And it just puzzles me because it's like, is this the time, right? And so I'm just talking about it because it's like, I don't want people to be scared to stand up for themselves, but they're making us scared in certain situations by the things that they're doing, by how they're handling us. And it's just a lot with that. And so we're going to take a little shift real quick. And I want to talk a little bit. Jay-Z had his interview with New York Times in September. And I mean, if you've seen it, he talked about a little bit of everything from relationships to life to being black in America. But one thing that he said that stuck out to me, he was basically talking about how black people can start to think differently as far as moving forward and what progress looks like. And he told them, he said, if we have a power base together, it becomes a much different conversation. And it's about this collectivity piece. And I'm all for diversity. I think that that's fine and dandy. We do need you. There are always allies. But I think that when it comes to a mental state as a people, we need to become collective. Because at the end of the day, Jews support Jews, and they make sure that their communities are good and they're popping. When I go out to Southwest, Hispanics are holding each other down. But when black people seem to start trying to hold each other down, it seems like we're trying to be divisive. And I don't think that that's where we should be. So I'm curious, what does it take for Detroit, specifically black Detroit, to become unified in a collective purpose?
If you remove greed from your mindset and you truly believe in community, I believe that cultures could blend together to be together. But I'm just diverse. You know, that's just me. Because I'm out here in community, dealing in 5 different communities in the area that I'm in. I'm dealing with 5 different communities that people look differently. Financially, they look differently from their skin color. They look differently the way that they were raised. So my whole thing of it is, how do you bridge the gap? Because there's something that a Jew that has in their culture that I need, so I can blend it into the culture that I look like, so that we can become even more common together. But at the end of the day, I think every culture is dealing with the same sense that we are. But I believe that, you know, the sensitivity of what we've been through and the pain that we've been through is always put to the forefront. And sometimes we live out of anxiety, out of worry, out of pressure, and out of anger and pain. And if we can stop living out of anger and pain and become more sensible in our thinking, because I can listen to him when he said he's been involved in police brutality, but I can look at it just riding, going to a pastor's retreat, and my wife is Caucasian. So we in the car, but some black people are like, well, why you this eligible black man with this white woman? Because that's who God gave me. And so I love my wife, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then I look at it from the framework that my wife pulls out, cop pulls us over, my wife is driving, he asked for her ID, Then he asked for my ID. I was like, I don't have to give you my ID, sir.
You're in the
You know,
passenger
just I'm a passenger. Well, I need to know everybody's in the car. My name is James Hill Jr. That's all you need to know. So I could have kept forcing an issue, then I would have had to deal with another issue. And is it unfair to our community? And how can we become more together? It's just the point of, if the only way I got to know you is by being intentional and watching how you are, you know, and we talked about education. So I look at it, I graduated from high school, but I've educated myself differently than someone. The system is telling you, you must go to a 4-year college. I don't believe in that. That's not everybody's road to educating themselves.
Yeah.
It's what you're reading, it's what you're watching, it's who you with, it's how you educate yourself. I choose to hang around a person who graduated from Michigan State and get from you and gain, then I go to college for free. So I don't have to pay that loan and that debt. So it's just, I want to know, I was excited to get to know you because I know some of the same people you know, right? But the only way to get to know someone is for them to understand. I know exactly what you do, right? You don't know exactly what I do. But then once we come together, then now we are building in community and culture. And now we got 2 black brothers doing something to change lives. And sometimes it's not only the black boys or black girls that we got to change, it's that white boy and that white girl that we need to change.
I mean, to touch bases, I agree. Not with everything though, but I am totally pro-black. That's just how I feel. Like going off to school, you know, my mom had said, make sure you don't bring a white boy home, you know, and it was always like I say, again, it was always instilled in us, like, you know, stay black, black, black vibe, you know. And then a lot of times I also feel like, I think that a lot of blacks, we need the most loving at times. Like I do see all kind of cultures needing, you know what I'm saying? And we do take from different cultures. Like we learn and we study and we learn, you know what I'm saying? Like, and we can imply them in our community. But I feel like just growing up in Detroit in itself, it's all black. It's all we know. You know what I'm saying? So like to go off, a lot of times when I see people go off, they go to the suburbs. And then they integrate with the white folks. And that's where the issue comes along, because it's like you never took your time out to help your people before you did that. And I feel like if we just do that in itself, you know, it would help build the community, the black community. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then they can also have a better idea of what they're dealing with, and then they can also become integrated. Like, I mean, like I said, I don't necessarily, I would love to have a black husband and black kids, like, but that's something that you know, it's personal to me.
Right.
Everybody, you know, have preferences
Right.
and whatnot, but it's not like, oh, we can't stand white folks. I mean, it's crazy because I'm a female and I'm a young black female and I identify with police brutality. And that's crazy to me. I always felt like, you know, as a black young lady, we would be protected. That's what men's supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? Like they were going to keep us safe. But it's always black men, officers, that are harassing me, pulling me over. I've been pulled out my car out from the narcotics unit. You know, like I don't even have drugs. I went to school. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter what we look like. We have that black face. We're a criminal. You know what I'm saying? We're already a victim. It's like, but when you have those Hispanics and those white, they give them a chance. You get what I'm saying? We don't even have that shot. I think that's crazy.
I mean, like we say, we can agree to disagree. You know,
All day.
You know what I'm saying? And it really boils down. It just boils down. I don't look at black because of experience. Like you said, you know, you grew up. I'm pro-black too. I didn't always know I was pro-black. But growing up, it was you know, embedded because I had the relatives that said if she can't use your comb, don't bring her home. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting there young, like, what she mean?
Like,
I graduated from a diverse school, majority white school, and I seen my interactions with them was totally different. So coming to Detroit and dealing with, you know, Detroit citizens, I'm like, y'all got it good. Y'all don't understand what I dealt with, you know, like you said, childhood traumas, what I dealt with, what I was called. I remember in kindergarten being called a nigga when I stayed in Woodhaven. I was in kindergarten, another kindergarten called me a nigga. Like, you a nigga. And I went home and talked to my mom, what's a nigga? You know, she had to sit down with me and give me that information. So it's all a mindset. I don't look at black as the color of skin no more, because you have black people out here that look just like you. That's not for you. You got to remember when you said Africa, when they brought us over here, who was the people that put us in slavery? It was some of our own different tribes that put us in slavery because of greed and wealth and jealousy and different things like that. But we have to remember too, everybody didn't come from Africa. We had people over here, but we got to remember that melanin is what is dominant inside of us, and all of us have a little piece of melanin. So when we look at that, I definitely look at being progressively inside of our community as a mindset. We have to have that mindset in order to be progressive. Just like, okay, you're a pastor. In churches, majority of the churches, you got, I say, after Sunday, Monday, about $8 billion from just churches going into a white bank. That bank is not giving our people or your congregation or our congregation, whatever church you go to or whatever place of worship you go to, you're not getting a loan. So economically, a church that's putting their money into a white bank that your congregation can't even get a loan from, your house in foreclosure. We got the biggest foreclosure inside of, we got about 68,000 homes in March that's about to be under foreclosure right now. We had the biggest tax auction in the nation 3 years ago, where houses is going for $500. And they found systematic ways to keep us out of buying our own homes, buying back our homes from out of the foreclosure. So when we put our money, we have to understand that we have to think whole with our people. We can't integrate. It's just like putting cream into coffee. It's not going to be pure anymore. And we have to remember also where culture comes from. Culture comes from us, our people. Does. That melanin, no matter what shade, how diluted it has begun, has arrived over time, that melanin is what started from the beginning. It's the carbon. You know, we breathe different. Like you said, you're married to a Caucasian.
Correct.
But she won't understand your pressure or your struggle or anything that you dealt with. She can kind of relate a little bit, but she won't truly understand deep down inside what you have to deal with. Just as you can't relate to what she dealt with in her throughout her trauma or her history, because it's just two different upbringings, two different worlds. You can agree to disagree and find common ground, but truly that whole, I can relate to my sisters. Yeah. I can relate to you better, and we can relate better than anything else of another culture or ethnic group coming inside of our community. Just like where we always try to integrate with, right now, the Chaldeans and the Arabs is thriving inside of our communities. Yeah, and we try to relate now with them like, yeah, you my brother. But growing up, I went to school with them. They called sand niggas. We don't even know, they don't even like being called sand niggas. They don't even like being related to a black person because of their mindset too. You know, so it's systematic stress and traumas in everybody. So we have to build with our people first in order to even come to another ethnic group and say, okay, well, this is what we can do. If I don't love myself first, if I don't have self-discovery and self-accountability of myself, I can never go into another culture or ethnic group and try to build with them because I don't know who I am. I cannot travel this world without knowing who I am or where I come from or what my DNA or my genetics is built from. Because at the end of the day, we was talking earlier, I worked for Comcast for 8 years. After leaving Comcast with medical issues, I tried to go into business on my own, being a low voltage electrician, but I never was certified. As we were stating about license, we don't have that many architects that's licensed, low voltage electricians, plumbers. You know, we don't have these people licensed because of the institutions that hinder us from getting inside and getting these licenses to grow our communities. So if we can't get those licensed and get inside these institutions, we have to build our own institutions. That's we were speaking that you work at Timbuktu. One of the last African-centered-based schools. It is the last African-centered-based school within inside Detroit, which teach. I got a couple of members' kids that go there, and one of our members, our ex-members, used to work there as a teacher. So when I never knew about Timbuktu until 2 years ago. I'm 29 years old. Never knew about Timbuktu until about 2 years ago. But we still try to integrate and program our kids to another ethnic group that always was against us. They always tried to hinder us. Like you said, Trump, the policy, black progression. Why are we getting blackballed? Because we're not trying to collectively come together. And just like Jay-Z's talking about collective economics. That $8 billion from churches, if we put that money into a black-owned bank, I don't care if they're not giving you good benefits or good loans for the church. It's got to start somewhere. Take that money, get it into a black-owned bank, put it into a black-owned bank. That way that your congregation can go get some loans, because you can't help everybody in the congregation, because everybody's not putting money into everybody not tithing. We know that. We definitely know that. But the accountability goes to not just churches, but businesses, black businesses. Put your money into a black-owned bank. Even personally, individually, get into a black-owned bank. Inside of Detroit, we have a black-owned bank. First Independence. Now, they might not be growing vastly or open the hours of operation or, the conveniency that we so love. But we got to remember, one thing that hinders us is conveniency. Because right now, you can order everything, when they do everything ordering from TV, how lazy are you going to be? What's your mindset going to be at that moment when everything becomes convenient? So conveniency is definitely something that we have to really look at on a broad scale.
I agree.
Oh no, we could do this all day long.
Yes.
So I'm gonna stay disciplined, but I'm definitely gonna get y'all numbers, because I'm gonna shoot some of my knowledge to you. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I'll say it like this: that I know what it is to be called a nigga. I know what it is for my kids to be called nigglets, right? I know what it is to deal with ignorance from a black culture and the white culture and whatever other culture. I know what it is to be ignorant, right? And I believe that I'm not African American. I'm black because I'm not from Africa. So that's something that is given that I don't believe in. I'm just a black guy living in America. Period. They don't call them white Americans. They just call them white, and they're not even. That's a whole other subject.
Yeah.
So, but I'll go this way with you. I look at it. There's nothing wrong with being pro-black, but still and yet we all need help. And then my challenge would be to you is to know yourself is to know your own family tree.
Right.
And a lot of us don't know our own family tree, to even know what was integrated, what was mixed into, maybe the back years, decades ago, that your ancestor was raped, and now you're mixed with something else. And we call ourselves the totality of this, but I don't believe that anyone is a totality of anything. It started with two. It had to. That's where my belief system comes from. And then where they were, they started looking like me. And so at the end of the day, if I continue to focus on my color, I won't be able to change minds. Is my color and my history important? Yes, but my objective as being an activist is to change the ignorance of how you said when you were in New Haven and you were in school and another kindergartner called you a nigga. He didn't know that word, he was taught that word. Right. So it was a learned behavior. So my job is to change the behavior of somebody else who is rude but don't even understand what the word rude means. Right. So it's the process of still being community, but still teaching other communities how to change their thinking. Because the blend of it is the key word is division. Everybody's divided about something. Hair extensions, natural hair. Yeah. Hair straight,
hair curly.
Hair curly. Perm, not perm. Some people are so pro-black that they won't put no chemicals in the air because that's, you trying to emulate somebody else. Well, why isn't it you just like that style? Why isn't it that's the way you like your hair to look? That's okay. I like hair on my face. Some black men don't. It's not because I'm trying to emulate somebody else. It's what I prefer. And what you prefer is what you prefer. That's okay. With me growing up, I went to an all-black school, then I went to 10th grade, predominantly white school. So I know what it is to be dealt with rudely, and I know what it is to put my hands on somebody when they say something stupid. But I look at life right now. I can't teach my boys. I got 4 boys and 2 girls. I treat them like kings and queens, period. My daughter has on her mirror, because she's looking at it from a different way you're looking at it, I'm mixed and I'm proud.
Okay.
That's her identity. She's on both sides, and if she was more one or the other, she's more the black side than my 11-year-old is, because they have differences, but they both identify with a dad and a mom who loves them, who nurtures them. And I agree with you that, my wife is not going to understand everything. And over time, we're learning more and more about each other. But you're not going to understand everything that she's experienced, even though she's black, because her experiences you won't get. Because police brutality might have happened to you, but it didn't happen to me. So I'm not going to totally understand it, right? I've been treated wrongly, but I'm not going to totally understand it. And we're the same color. But at the end of the day, if I listen to you and I grow from that, to fight against that, because I'm with you. Like some of the churches, it's a travesty. They pimping.
Yeah.
And they doing things the wrong way. And the preacher getting paid, but then you look at a pastor because he got money or drive a nice car, but then you look at the drug dealer and they're dealt differently. It's all right for a drug dealer to have a nice car, but it's wrong for a pastor. Well, I'm a pastor and I got a business. I've been in business for 10 years. So when I drive around in a nice car, does that mean I'm stealing? No, I'm not stealing. You just don't know me. You don't know the work that I'm doing. You're just looking from the outside and, projecting something that's not truth. It's your truth, but it's a lie to me. But it's true to you. So the only way that I can change if I take the time to get to know you. I want to know you because you have power. I want to know you because you have power. And if you would meet my wife, oh yeah, that's my sister, even though she's not my color. Because my wife will do anything for her, will do anything for you, and will do anything for you because the way she was raised and what she injected to, even though she was from a small town in Martinsville, Indiana, that dealt with the KKK. She never had that mentality because she wasn't taught that from her parents.
And I think that across the board, just looking at on both sides, it's just this understanding of empowerment and knowing and being able to be knowledgeable. And what I always realize, and the reason why I do identify as pro-black is because our youth lack it. And it's one thing that I realize, I've been in schools all across the city, including Hamtramck, where there's a predominantly foreign, population in there. And all across that school is flags. All their flags are identified. It's an attachment to something.
Yeah.
And our young people have an attachment to nothing. And so that's why, I'm mixed and I'm proud because I got somebody that's teaching me and in my mind that can tell me what it is. But most of our kids can't be black and proud because they don't even know who they are, where they coming from, why they doing it, how they living, why they living in the way that they are. And it's distracting them from purpose. It's distracting them from progress. It's distracting them from success. Most of them don't even know what they really like or enjoy. Don't know what make them get up in the morning. Besides, your mama told you to come to school today, right?
Exactly.
And so it's just so much beyond that. And so, hey, we done kind of touched on institutions. What do y'all feel are the institutions that are having the greatest impact positively and then the greatest impact negatively? Because, I think that institutions within the city are showing both. We have areas that are like, wow, they're doing a great job. And then we have other institutions in which we're part of, and it's like, you're failing. You're failing. What do y'all think some of those are?
I would say the prison is the most horrible institution. And it's based on reading, and it's based on modern day slavery. And I deal with people that come from prison to equip them with knowledge from every race because of their choices that they chose to do whatever they chose to do, whether they didn't do the incident or they did the incident. And prison is a big business that is killing our men because everything starts with a man.
Yes, it does.
And so, and you just listen to some of your conversation earlier downstairs, there's a lot of men out here that don't know how to be a man because they haven't been taught that. But then they call themselves men, but they demean women. And because they demean them because of what they've experienced through the men that have been in their life. When I was growing up, I grew up with a dad that worked at the steel mill, a mom that worked at the University of Pittsburgh, and all I was pumped to, go to college, go to college, go to college. But they never really found out what their son's purpose was and what their son needed and wanted. His vision, they were giving me their vision that didn't belong to me. And so I think that we need to change the landscape of not allowing the prisons to be the biggest institution that people are constantly shipped to. Then they come from, their minds become institutionalized to that living to go back because they feel that's their best sense of security. And then, and then last institution is the one I love and I believe in is the church. And I look at, just something you said about Mondays, this money going to a bank. But then I look at it from this perspective. There's churches are open 2 days a week. That's a travesty. A church should be open 7 days a week. Where they're actually developing, having workshops and entrepreneurships and different things where people can learn and they can understand not to buy a house, because you buy a house, you still don't own the land.
Right.
And if you're not taught these certain things, people always say, I got to buy a house, I got to buy a house. It's not yours. Because anytime they want to rezone something, they rezone it, you don't own the land, you stuck.
Yeah.
You got to move. And so, but our people don't have enough knowledge. And so I look at it from the perspective of this. If I could stop anything, prisons are needed because people are crazy. Real talk. But if we could slow down anything of growth, to me, it would be the prison system.
Okay, my most positive influence, I would say, would be education. No matter really how it comes, because being around that kind of an atmosphere, just it gets your brain moving. Get your mind going. Like how he said earlier, everything's a mind state. Like I grew up in a household with just my mom. I didn't know my father. My mom was on drugs. We dealt with a lot of different, like a lot of different crazy things. So when I got to college, it was like, okay, I'm here, but I don't even know what I'm here for. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And it took me a minute to get on the ball of things, because I just knew, you know what I'm saying, you got to go to school, because that's all I was told. You got to do this because I'm not this. You got to make something of this family. And it was like, oh, I have all this weight on me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, and then on top of that, I'm black, and I didn't know that till I got around whites. You get what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm black. Oh, okay, you treat me different. Who knew? Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, so yeah, you do walk around with this sense of hatred, and it's just, you just mad at everything. But once, like I say, with education, just getting like some type of knowledge about anything, just like I say, once your brain get the going, it just flows. Eventually, everything kind of just synchronized to where you're just learning on an everyday basis. You're not even thinking about it. It's like now I'm not even in school, but I'm learning every day. Mm-hmm. Like how your mom actually said, like a forever student. Mm-hmm. Yes. I look at me just like that. Like I feel like I'm a forever student. I'm gonna forever learn something. I want to learn something new. But I think the thing that's hindering us would be religion. I'm not against Christianity. I'm not against any religion. I think it all ties into, like what it's supposed to. But I think that everyone's waiting around for some savior, like with faith. It kind of reminds me of a Skywalker. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what faith is to me. But you have to put the work in. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, like with a lot of black families, I think we just, Jesus will save you, give it to God. But it was no individual work. It was no work behind it. So like, what are you waiting on? Who's gonna come for you? Like, no one's here to save you. So like that's a part of me that thinks that like that's what hinders our community, because it's like we grew up with, like I say, with the religion, and when I broke free from that and got into spirituality, it was like, this is what I've been missing. This was the key. Like it was, like I said, it wasn't not one religion that I had to stick. I identified with certain different things, like this Hinduism, this makes sense. This makes sense. Like, so like that's what makes me feel like, yeah, integrating maybe down the line could be something that could be talked about, but we have to be pro-black, because no one's pro-black. Like we're, like you say, always getting blackballed. So we have to, I'm saying, like those would be my two key things that would be a positive and, negative impact within the communities.
Man, this is I mean, because due to the fact that like you were saying, prison. I'm definitely there with prison, the institution of the prison. And then you say religion, and it's like, I was just going over notes and different things last night, and all those came across. And with prison is modern day slavery. As identifying, and when you look into like more science and different things like that, when you identify yourself as black, I really don't identify myself as black. I identify my power as black because I can relate. Mm-hmm. When we look at each other, that's how we relate. But you are nothing in law when you identify yourself as black. We never got our rights. Mm-hmm. They didn't free us from slavery. They just amended slavery.
Sure did.
So they went to prisons. So when the prison system came up, it was public prisons, as far as, state-owned, operated, federal, but now it's privatized prisons because it's everything is economics. It's a money thing inside these facilities. And then when you was just talking about you didn't grow up with a father, I actually last night I definitely want to share this with y'all with the fathers, because that hinders us. Everything started with a man, as you stated, and with fathers not being inside your home, you have majority 85% of the children exhibit behavioral disorders because they have a father in this home. You got 90% of all homeless and runaways is because they don't have a father in the home. Majority of our statistics and our behaviors and anything that's hindering us inside of our communities because we don't have male presence around inside of our communities. If you felt, like you said, when you was dealing with officers, you felt that you was safe because it was a black officer around. A male is supposed to protect you. A man's supposed to protect the female, his companion, his brother, his sister, his brother, whatever. It doesn't matter. That's what a male's supposed to do, protect. But you don't feel that notion or that voice from your black male due to the mindset of what it is now. Due to the mindset, they might not have a father inside their home, so they don't know what a male or a man's supposed to be inside of a household. Also, when you was talking about religion and going into spirituality, I tapped into my spirituality also a couple of years ago. And it was just like overwhelming. It was the most experience, because I came to the notion of I can't learn everything from one book, and I can't learn everything from a book that is missing chapters, a book that was revised and modified by white supremacy.
My goodness, this is a good conversation. This is a good conversation. I have looked in I have been to the mosque, looked in at the Quran. Everything is not there for me, but to know that like you say, you have to know yourself, self-discovery. When you discover where you come from, who you are, it's a whole thing. We have to remember the key things, that everything was against, if you want to say black people, everything was against black people. You want to say African Americans, whatever terminology you want to use to identify melanated people. It was something took from us. What was took from us? Why was it took from us? And how can we break what was took from us and get it back? And why, when people know what was took from us, why is it so hard for them to even research and continue to grow with what was took from them? So these are our main things that we have to think about. And when I look at that and think about that, like you say, education and religion are two things that was took from us. Because who was here before Jesus? We got to remember who was Jesus following? What entity or deity, however, what was there before that? Why are we just stuck in that time, in that era of history? Why don't we go and research before who was before, or what was going on before Jesus? And then the makeup of the deities that we look at. Can anybody name a black philosopher? Anybody know a black philosopher?
Anti-Geo.
Yep, that's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Or Umar Johnson, would he be considered? Yeah, he's a
okay. That's a.
I'll
I'll go black. That he'd go under my psychology.
Okay, psychologist. Okay.
He'd go under my category of black psychologist. Okay. But I'll go to W.E. Du Bois.
Okay.
Angela Davis.
all the way down.
Yeah, and then I even go way back to the BCs, like 1400, where you got Amenhotep.
Okay.
The one of they said one of the gods. So we have to look at where our history come from, and even before Amenhotep. Before Amenhotep was Fatat Hotep.
Okay.
And that was like 1456 BC. You know, he was like the he was like they looked at him as the creator. He did everything from, you know, humanity, and then everybody looked at, you know, studied that.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to go all the way back and not just stop at one entity and say this is it, this is right here, because we are what is inside of the world. We are that. So when we look inside of our universe, everything, you are the center of your universe. Like, this is Politics with Ken, but right now, this is your universe, and you are the star of your show, and right now, you know, this is like the Politics Ken is the co-star.
Okay.
Just like in everybody,
Yeah.
you know, everybody narrative is totally different. So it's the education, it's the religion, and it's prison. But I'll go with prison, education. No, I'll go with education, prison, and then religion. Because if you educated, you wouldn't end up in prison.
Well, that's not always true because it's what you're educated in. And some people are educated into the street life and criminal life, and that's why they end up in prison. So education is key, but it's the type of education you're gaining.
Right.
And so then you look at it from the perspective, you had said a couple things, and a lot of knowledge that you just, you know, came out with is true knowledge. But then I got a few books, because you like to read and you like to educate yourself.
Yeah.
So I got a few books for you to read. And they're based out of Africa, right? And so there is a guy named Thomas Oden, Elizabeth Eshel, Edwin Yomichi, and David D. Daniels. These are all commentaries, books, history that will show you that Christianity was in Africa before people say it came to, you know, they were enslaved by the white man and then they drew a white, blue-eyed Jesus. Right, they did that because they wanted to have a sense of power. And they want people to identify with their color and do what I tell you to do. I agree with all what you're saying. And even some of the knowledge that you spit prior to these 2,500 years we're talking about, there's not a doubt. But right now, still in the day, I can flip it for you. There's people somewhere that don't know none of that.
Right.
And they're worshiping a turtle.
Yeah.
Literally right now. And that's their God. That's their belief. And you can't change their indifference at all because that's how they were raised into. So at the end of the day, what is the truth? I look at it like this. You'll find out one day.
Yeah.
You will find out. And you could be religious. You could be like me, who's in love with Jesus. You could be with the person who is pro-black and I believe in this. You can be a Muslim who believes in Muhammad. But then me, I like to educate myself. So I believe in apologetics. Apologetics is defending your faith. You know, not arguing with a person, you know, just having conversation, right? But you'll know the maturity of the person after you give them some knowledge. And if they get angry, I say, okay, well, let's calm it down. Because I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I'm giving you something for you to think about. And for you to become even, I'll say it like this, more spiritual to who you are, right? And so, I mean, I love it because I remember being, I'm sorry, I'm older than you, this age, right? At this age, I wasn't doing what you're doing right now. At your age, I wasn't doing what you're doing right now. I was educated in a different way because I wanted to be rebellious, you know, and I lived that framework. And so it drove me to some places where I didn't end up in prison because I just was, I don't know, I just didn't get caught. I should be, but I just didn't get caught.
Yeah. Can I touch? Go ahead. And I'm not saying that a lot of people is rebellious on Christianity or anything like that, as far as, you know, starting in Africa, because Christianity did. I got a book over there. It's called The African American Art of War, and it touched bases on that. It's by a professor called Michael Griggs. And actually, he was one of my college professors. And he touched bases on Christianity originating in Africa and different things like that. And then it did get diluted and tampered with. Okay, but what you stated was the white and blue eyes. It's the idea of who Jesus is, because people might call me Skrill, but my name wasn't Skrill 6 years ago.
Right.
So the names will always change.
Exactly.
The letter J was created when? You know, what was Jesus before? You know, he was called Jesus.
Well, it depends on the language, right?
Exactly.
So it's the Hebrew and Aramaic, right? And so then there's not even a J in there.
Exactly.
So it's how it was pronounced out. And oh man, this is a great show.
Yeah.
You doing your thing. You are doing your thing. And I don't want to be taking over your show, but you are doing your thing. So I'm going to be quiet. But I want to have conversation after this, because the greatest thing about this show to me is now it's introduced me to two powerhouses. That the kids that I deal with now can be empowered and have some more information that they can go research and learn. The one thing of life is if you're not doing your own research, you're going to be stuck being dumb.
And for me, with the institution piece, and I mean, we all come from non-traditional families. I mean, I grew up, I ain't found my daddy to college. You know, luckily I had an awesome stepdad to hold it down, who most people think is my father to this day. But I honestly believe that the institution that is both hindering and can help us the most is the institution of family. And I feel like we're losing it with so much. You know, it's such a disconnect because that's the one that's in our control. We talking about education, we talking about religion, we talking about the prison system, we talking about, you know, health. All of these institutions is ran by somebody else that probably don't look like you, but the institution of family will always be in our control. And I think that once we get a hold of that and start to really plant seeds and build within each other and understanding that just because we ain't blood don't make us family, you know, or don't make us not family. And at the end of the day, we have to start to be able to hone in on where we are and start to develop that. And out of that, once we tackle the institution of family, it'll trickle out. Because like you said, most of us don't know our family tree. If I just took care of home, if we all just took care of home in the way that we supposed to take care of home, just imagine how much success and how much our communities can prosper along. But we ain't even taking care of home.
But the way we look at family is different than another person in another country.
Exactly.
The way that they, you know, if you look at the Hispanics and how they deal with family, it's totally different than the way that we deal with family. We as Americans push our kids out at 18.
Yeah.
You got to get on out of here. But there's other cultures that, no, stay. Grow the family, give back, do what you're supposed to do. But I think the major destruction always goes back to the man has been taken away from family, and that's what's destroying our families.
I want to touch bases on that because the man being taken away from our family does a lot of hindering, but also, like I say, like with the fact that we are not building our family is a big issue. I lost my mom 2 years ago, and so I have guardianship of my sisters. One's 18 now, and then one's 16. A little younger, you know what I'm saying? Thank you.
Wow.
But so I mean, these last 2 years, I've been in a parental role. I don't even have any children, so I'm learning and I'm dealing with so much of something else that was taught by someone else. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So I mean, acting out, behaviors, like whatever you name it, we've been through it, and I feel like I will never give up on them. Never. How hard it gets, and that's part of me being pro-black. Like I said, you get that sense of empowerment. That's the point of being pro-black and pushing blackness, like, because we are not proud to be black. We don't have nothing besides celebrities that are half naked on the TV screens. You know, like that's what's raising our young females. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then TV. You know what I'm saying? Like it's destruction. It's a programming system. Like I say, we're having kids young, not ready, don't have the time for them, pushing them off on daycare workers, teachers, you know, stuff like that. And you putting all this faith in someone else raising your kid, and then they come back, and it's like, you know, like, so what do you think you're going to be dealing with? All outside mess. You get what I'm saying? Like the biggest, like you say, family is a huge thing. I think that it doesn't matter about what culture do with their family, or what do you do with yours? Like, where does your loyalty lie? You get what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have to necessarily, it doesn't come up. It's not about, integrating or anything. It's just building your family. Like you say, we don't have to be blood to be family. I look at you like a sister, like I would do anybody else, a young lady that I'm passing on the street. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's like, you are my sister. I would want to look out for you if I'm out and about. If I see, like I've seen young girls or like not too long ago, I seen 2 young males outside fighting. I pulled my car over. Y'all fighting? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're y'all parents, but it took 40 other cars to pass by. Why is that?
To get to one.
It's like, why is that? Like, we should all have that mentality. Like, each one teach one, period. And sometimes me, but always us. That's it.
I actually forgot family was the institution topics that you was talking, but that is number one, because if we control our family, that's what, like you said, we have control over. If we control our family, we teach them right, we won't go to the prison system. We won't be miseducated, because the first teacher is the woman, you know, the mother, when we inside the womb. So if you're nourishing your child's mind the proper way, you know, that's why it was so divine when you said the topic is it's a mindset. You know, I'm like, wow, this is what I be talking about with, you know, and a lot of people is coming to the notion of it's a mindset.
It is.
You know, so if we can train our minds inside the family, and like you said, the family tree, know your family tree. I had the benefit of growing up with my great-grandparents and knowing not all the way in depth, because some of our parents and family do be lying, because they are programmed from that 1965 is like that point where people really came to the notion like, wow, black people have really did a lot.
Yeah.
African Americans have done a lot. Like I say, whatever you want to, I'm speaking to abroad because your audience is going to be so broad.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have more science like, well, I don't go with black. You know, then you're going to have the regular people like, well, I'm not African American. I'm African. Well, yeah, I'm African American. The regular people that identify as African American. So it's just crazy how we don't take care of our family. You know, we want to leave our family at the woman is on the government assistance, the system. They don't want, the key thing with government assistance is, where is the father? Where is the dad? Who is the father? Why is the government just looking for the man, or want to keep the man outside of the home? So I know a couple people that's on the government system. I didn't grow up on assistance, but at some point in my life, I was with family that was on assistance. And the dad couldn't be in the house. Oh, my worker come to visit. You gotta leave. I'm like, what is you talking about? If they ask anything, you ain't never seen that person. I don't know what they talking about until I got older and I researched, because this is the environment. This is the system. They see one drop of adult man clothes inside the home. Who clothes are those? They want to go through all your information, and with your information, they want to go through all your whole environment looking for this man. Just as you said, the man not being in the household is the destruction. The man's not being in the community. So it does go back to family. That's why we need the queens, the women, whatever you want to, the princes, the emperors, empress, whatever you want to, label yourself as. We need them to stand up and not just
draw back,
or fold against the system. Like, I need them pennies.
And we gotta remember that the deadbeat dad did not start with the black man.
No.
It did not start with the black man. It started with the slave owner.
Yeah, the slave owner.
You get what I'm saying? Like, who were, sexually assaulting. Like, let's be real. And
that's all in the news.
That's that's all in the news. But yeah, that's where it started. And like I say, like, we have this idea, like, oh, this, my man ain't nothing, or like, he ain't, I'm putting him on child support. Wait a minute. Like, do we know where we originated from? Like, with the Black Panthers, they started welfare, but it wasn't from that place of, like, keeping the family divided. It was to keep us together. We forgot. And then, like I say, after so down the line, we got so many lazy people. People really don't want to work. Let's be for real. Like, people really don't want to get out there and really grind, because it's so hard. We have all these barriers and doors we got to knock down. People don't have the ammo for it. After so long to fight, you get weary. It's like, oh, what am I still fighting for? I'm not going to get the opportunity to do this. And like we were saying earlier, everybody have hidden talents. But it's hard to get into, because it's like society is going to, even our own people is going to be like, you can't do that. Like, why is that? And again, I think it, like you say, it started within the family, because we was taught that our parents were hard on us because someone was hard on them. That's just how it just trickled down through generations, and like, it's like, we have to cut the cord. We have to, like, this generation, and I think 2017 is like year of the revolutionaries, like year of the world changers. Like, I think we have a movement going. So regardless if we're being blackballed or not, we're here. We're kicking your door down.
But it's how you look at it. Like, a lot what you're saying is, I used to be a lazy black man. You know, I was always good with my mouth to manipulate somebody. I knew what it had to take to discredit a woman for her to take care of my need.
Okay.
I knew how to do that. That was easy work because that's what I was taught when I was hanging in the playground playing basketball. They would be talking about this, and that sounded interesting to me. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it that way because I don't have to do it myself. I can just lean on somebody else because I didn't mess with anybody. I never was a guy to go into a bar. Go into a strip club or. Because that was stupid to give my money for you to do that. No, that's dumb. I would rather you give me your money so that I can go buy something for myself. That's selfishness.
Yeah.
That's greed. That's manipulation. And so then you look at a lot what you're saying, because every time I say something, just in me, because so a man thinketh, so is he. And so how your brain is how you go. And then when you're weary and well doing, you know, but at the end of the day, it's faith. You got to take this step, even though, you know, it is crushing on us as a black people. But to me, it's like, if I didn't start in my office, in my house, in Warren, of doing Jay Hill Speaks, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I had to go through the trial. I didn't start making money to take care of what I needed to take care of until my 7th year. I've been in it for 10 years. I had to go through all I had to go through, and I don't believe in the word grind, I believe in the word shift.
Okay.
Because if you're in a car and you're in a 5-speed, you pressing on a thing, you want to shift, you don't want to grind because there's a lot of, even though there's going to be tension, even though there's going to be tension in whatever you're doing, but it's how you handle the tension that makes the difference. And you got to be delicate in some areas, you got to be patient, even in what she is doing. Oh my goodness, 5 years from now, I'm remember we're gonna be way on the bottom. Way on the bottom. You remember that show we did like 5 years ago? And she's gonna be somewhere else. And it's okay, but it'll be a pleasure to watch.
Yes.
To watch. It's a black, strong, wonderful queen, empress, just like you said, princess to your dad, but just beautiful person who's made up her mind to bring change because it's needed. But if we would even come together as 4 people, even though we don't agree on everything, just think how much power is in that. Yeah. But then the problem of it is of creating this type of family, because I believe what I believe and you don't believe what I believe, I ain't even messing with you.
Exactly.
And that's the wrong way to go.
That's the wrong way. Definitely.
That's the wrong way. I want to mess with you.
Yeah.
I want to mess with you. In a way of saying, look, there's something my daughter can learn from you. There's something that my son can learn from you. Now, he's going to have his own opinion as an 11-year-old or even my 30-year-old. Just think the difference between 30 and soon to be 9.
Yeah.
I got a 9-year-old. So just think of the difference of the man I am. If 30 years ago, nowhere near this.
I can imagine. I mean, I'm only 26, and 4 years ago, like it's like
We've come a long
we've
way.
come a long way, and it's crazy how challenging you feel. Like you feel like we've been here like doing this for years, doesn't it? It always seems like I say, it's the fight though. It's just we've been fighting for so long, and that's what I really don't think that we were taught to be sensitive to certain topics. We were taught to be hardcore. Like I say, like I'm growing up without a father. My mom was my father. I didn't have time to cry. You know, you didn't have time for that. You had to do this, and I'm taking penitentiary chances. We're selling drugs. We're doing this to keep us from being in poverty, which never got us out of poverty. You get what I'm saying? Like it never happened.
Right.
We're still here. Like, and it's crazy. I just think that's just crazy, but.
Yeah, and it's definitely like everything is like our whole conversation. Even though it feels like it's going this way, it's going that way, but it's going full circle.
Yeah.
It's really going full circle because as you was talking about faith, and you was in the basement and the manipulation. I mean, I didn't feel that I was good with my mouth. I had a good mouthpiece, but a lot of people was telling me I had a good mouthpiece, and it was self-evaluation that led me to self-accountability in order to even go for faith. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, if you not hold yourself accountable, you ain't even taking a step towards faith. My bad, Queen. You ain't not even taking a step towards faith. So, you know, your self-accountability took you that leap of faith, you know, to go with Politicking with Ken, which, you know, just jewels with everything that you're doing, and it's gonna provide many blessings.
Yes.
You know, even in the Bible it says if you go by the righteous path, nothing will hinder you. You know, so when you going righteously down things and you out here educating your people and you giving the proper knowledge and the information, you know, it's going to be other people on the outside. There's a lot of people that don't agree with what I do. Even though I feel that I'm doing the righteous work and I'm doing the work for the people.
Right.
It's a lot of people that always come and say, oh, you know, especially a lot of people heard about the church incident, altercation, you know, holding the church accountable. That doesn't mean that my organization that I'm a part of doesn't work with church.
Yeah.
We just, Triumph Church just helped us give out 200 plus turkeys to the community on our Black Friday event.
Yeah.
So we work with individuals, organizations, people, institutions that's for the people, about the community, because that's about family oriented, because that is the first thing to anything is family. We have to get back to our family. Detroit, we right here, the blackest city in America. No matter since the 67 riots, population, no matter from the city was built for 2 million people, and we only at 700, a little bit under, it's under 700,000 now. It's 689,000, I think was the new numbers after this campaign election with the mayor. We still are 80% black. We are the Mecca. We are baby Africa.
Yes.
You know, just like I was speaking with your mom. Oh my God, man, just brilliant, very wise. And she was talking about back in the day how Michigan was a part of, you know, we had the most homeowners, but even where Canada and the Underground Railroad rise, the Underground Railroad is right through downtown, going towards Canada. The tunnel to Canada right there. What was it before? It was the tunnel to Canada, as far as with cars going through. You know, it's a lot of churches that was prominent inside the underground and the slavery movement. But when I always came into my spirituality, I was going inside myself, and all that I was coming out with was inside these books and all around me. And I kept on. They say raise your right hand. You know, when you do a sworn testament, I'm looking at the map and I'm like, this looks like Michigan. Why do you want me to raise my right hand? And then in church, I got taught. He got the whole world in his hand. Where your hand at? Where's Detroit? Where's the best water in the world? The Great Lakes. We used to provide water across the whole. Oh my! When your mindset just starts to change, your whole environment starts to shift, and it just unlocks and opens doors. But you have to have that accountability in order to grab that faith and self-discovery to discover what's inside you, because everything around us is already here. This was already planned for politicking to be infiltration at this time. Just like you said, a lot of people around this time is activists. I don't look at myself as an activist, because when you look at the terminology and the definition of activist is, it changed politics, but it's reactionary. When you get active, it's after effect something didn't happen. We have to stop being reactionary people inside our community. So I look at being proactive inside of our community, because when you look at proactive, that means that you have the power to detour what happens. That means when you being proactive, you cause that to happen.
Exactly.
So I want to be able to cause something to happen inside my community. I want to be able to cause that great wealth, you know, that positive influence inside of our community. So that's why I do look at myself as being pro-black, because I want to cause my generation to be progressive inside of our communities, and not just in our communities, inside the country, inside the nation, because we have to have a mindset of family, but most of all, a nationhood.
I've had such a great conversation with y'all today. I told y'all I was gonna bring some fire, but I think that the one thing that we should all get from this conversation is it doesn't matter what kind of walk of life you come from, what background you have, it's all about your mind state and how you're thinking, how you're acting, and how you're living, and what you're putting out here for others. So remember that. Now it's time for our Youth Spotlight. So excited to be joined by my fire Youth Spotlight, okay? I'm saying about to be one of my favorite artists behind Kendrick in a minute.
Oh, that's crazy.
But I want to introduce y'all to Mr. Courtney Bill, better known as Ya Body LC.
Yeah,
been following your music now for a little bit. It's been a few months I've been on your head.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But I just want to start by, telling the audience a little bit about what the root or the meaning is behind, your name.
You know what? God Body, like originally, like when I came into knowledge, I came from a standpoint of like pride and ego. Like the spirit wasn't really involved in it. And anybody who really uses the name God Body, it's with knowing we're the gods and we're the supreme beings and all of that beating on your chest, macho trash. So that's how I came into it first. So I started reading a book. It was called I'm not from Hebrews to Negroes, From Niggas to Gods. So when I read that, like, it gave me that standpoint, and I got that hate the white man complex. You know what I mean? So the name God Body kind of just grew on me from that, like from a bad side of the knowledge. So I ended up doing a freestyle like 2 years ago in 2015, and I said God Body, and like niggas went crazy in the studio. Wait, can I say the N word? Okay. Yeah. So to make sure. But niggas went crazy when we were in the studio, and the name just grew on me from that point forward. So like I started the freestyle series from there. So like every time I'm getting ready to drop something big, like I drop that freestyle. So I have them at sequences.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where the name came from. But that whole name stuff is deep though.
Okay, and I like that you're talking about like this idea of energy and this interest behind it, because I want to know, like, with music, it's so big, it touches a lot of people.
Most definitely.
And particularly, working with young people on a daily, I know they love music. How much do you think that music has an impact on our youth, and how?
I would say 100% right now, just because like we're in a wave of music is life. It's our everyday. Like it controls your energy, your thoughts, the way you move, the way you interact with certain people. So especially with our generation right now, like when we were in school, it was more school fundamentals. Our kid, like we were outside more and all of that. Like music was just whenever we were on the computer.
Yeah.
Now it's our everyday life. So I believe it most definitely does influence our every way thinking, thought, action, word, everything that has to do with life now.
Definitely. And so through your music, I'm just listening to it. And what I love most is this idea you capture what I call the Black experience. It's like you're speaking from not only what it is you're going through, but how it's impacting you and how it's creating this energy that it's positive in my opinion. How do you think that your ability to share your gift and your talents has been able to influence those around you and even yourself?
I believe it shows them a side that they didn't know that they were conscious of. You know what I mean? Because when it comes to music, like even now in the city, and like I love our city music, I love our artists, but it plays more on the negative side of your mind.
Yeah.
And it intrigues, things that we're not even supposed to be really indulging in. So like I really just want my music to touch a part of the mind that hasn't been touched yet and make you spark interest, make you want to learn about something that I'm talking about, whether it's one word, a syllable, or an idea. Like I want to spark an idea or a creator, make you want to create something.
And so with that, do you think that your music, because a lot of what you speak to when you say things like Yah, and you're looking at the Most High, and just the way that you approach this idea of spirituality, do you think that it has an impact of challenging or supporting the institution of religion?
Oh no, see, like everything. Yeah, that's a good question. Like everything that I do is going to challenge academia or the way that we live now. Anything that we call normal, I want to challenge.
Okay.
Because I say that because everything that we've been taught has been generational. Nobody from my generation before me did the research on why they believe in what they believe in. It's just what my grandma told me. So this is what I'm instilling in you. This is what you're going to instill in your kids, and so on and so on. So my generation of my brothers, it's a lot of us. We were the knowledge babies. Out of all of us, like it's a few of us that were the knowledge babies. So I started to do research, and the name that I did come across was Yah. And you take that back to the Tetragrammaton, hieroglyphics, Paleo Hebrew. You know what I mean? Like that name has gone back to the beginning of history. 1600s is when the letter J was created. You know what I mean? So just that energy, it comes with English, and English is witchcraft. So
Right.
like it can get deep. But when it comes to the Most High, like I really say the Most High because when I say Yah, a lot of people don't know about it yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we're living in the end of times to where like his name will be on everyone's tongue. A lot of people are awakening to the truth and who we are. And I try not to shun the religion standpoint of it, because if that will get if that is what gets you to the Most High, then who am I to shun it at the end of the day? But it's about looking at it for what it is. Like I don't believe in religion. I truly believe it's imprisonment. I believe in the Spirit and the Father and his name and who he is. So, when I say Yah, only those who subscribe to like the Hebrew Israelites, like that's the closest thing I subscribe to, because they go back to laws and commandments and statutes and everything that got us to the point to where we're at now. So yeah.
So let's just switch gears a little bit. You know, you have your single Pressure.
Yeah.
I actually was planning on my way to the interview. Like,
Lit.
let me get in here. Let me get in the way. Talk to us a little bit about Pressure. What is it that you want people to take from that song?
Pressure was actually a spiritual record. Like, it came about, how can I explain this without getting deep? It's like, it's hard for me to have like just regular conversations a lot of the time, just because of like the space I create from. I always create from the spirit. So like when I got the record, shout out to producer Jupiter too. That's who produced the record. He sent it to me, and like that wasn't really my type of wave at the time, and I didn't know what I was doing. I wrote Pressure like close to 2 years ago.
Okay.
So when I got the record, I instantly wrote to it. I cut it. And when we listened to it, it was like an energy that I've never felt on the record. So like what I wanted people to take from it was where my mind was at now. And it's crazy like what everything is going on now in the streets. Just speaking from the standpoint of the spirit that's involved over our city with the murders and homicides and everything. Like we look at, when you look at someone, or let's say like me and you are arguing, you have to be to the level of consciousness to see that I'm not really arguing with you. The spirit world is so thin, it's a tear in the fabric. So like you really have to be conscious enough to see that it's a spirit behind the person, whoever you're arguing with, that's in their ear. You know what I mean? So that's what really Pressure was involved in. If you see the visual portrays that spirit attacking each way of life. You know, from the guy getting killed in the video to the police killing a young black man and everything. Like it's a spirit that's involved in everything. And that's the battle that we have to become conscious of. You know what I mean? And not just making it physical. Because before this flesh and all of this came about, we were spiritual beings. You know what I mean? So that's really what I wanted them to take from it. It's the spiritual side of everything that's going on in the city.
That's deep. You 22? Just 22? 22?
Yeah.
Goodness.
No,
So-
I'm sorry. I'm 22. I just turned 23.
Okay.
I just
Happy
turned
belated
20.
birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, I just turned
Yes.
23.
So, I know you have a project that you're working on right now.
Man,
You
too
don't
many.
know when it's dropping.
Yeah, too many.
So I just
Too
want to know, give us a little plug. Tell us something about it.
You know what? This happened maybe a year ago. It's crazy. Everything that's been happening that I'm dropping now happened like a year ago. And like
timing.
yeah, timing. And I really been keeping that on my tongue is patience, because like I'm a very impatient person. Like if I create something that's dope, I want to drop it right then in the moment. But like the Most High has really just been speaking like my time and it's not yours. Like when you drop, it's going to be effective. Like when I dropped Pressure, it was during the Feast of Tabernacles. And go off topic real quick, like the Feast of Tabernacles is a holy day that we're supposed to celebrate, not a holiday.
Okay.
So to break it down deeper, Lucifer can only innovate, he can't create. So everything that the Most High gave us to do, he just flipped it. So days and times, the Roman calendar, all of that stuff he flipped. So when you think of Holly is Holi, holy is Holy. So it's just flipping small stuff like that. And the holy day is just something that was biblical that we're supposed to celebrate. So basically I was celebrating the Feast of the Tabernacles, and I was sleeping outside in a tent. And the Most High spoke to me like on a Thursday, like drop Pressure Saturday. I'm like, huh? I'm thinking I'm tripping. He said it again, like drop Pressure Saturday. I'm like, okay. And I dropped it, and it was like the whole city went crazy. So I just forgot what we were even, what was even the question? Yeah, the project. But yeah, a year ago, same thing. I was on my way to the gym, and the Most High put the 10 Commandments in my spirit. And I thought about it for like a couple of days, like, okay, why did you put it on my spirit? And I ended up going into the studio. I wrote a record, and it was pertaining to Sandra Bland, I believe, around that time.
Okay.
It was about a year and a half ago. And it was pertaining to everything that was going on, the energy, the marching and all that around that time. And I wrote a record, Thou Shalt Not Kill. And that's a commandment. So, you know, I just got the idea. He started giving me ideas on how to form the project around that. So I ended up doing 10 records based off each commandment, but putting it in more so of layman's terms and what's going on in the streets, and not making it more biblical, because when you come up too preachy, you're going to run people away. So it's kind of finding that balance to where, you know, I'm still the same person. I'm still from Joy Road, but, you know, I'm with the Most High.
Right.
So it's meeting the people in the middle and giving them dope music that hasn't been heard in the city right now. Because everything in the city right now, like, is street music for real. And everything that's not that, it doesn't get the light that it deserves.
Okay.
And like I said, I love all our city artists. I know majority of them. But we don't have a true leader.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's going, like I said, that has that balance with the people. Because that's what people subscribe to. And even with women, Like not I'm not saying you, but like a lot of women, they're going to subscribe to the closest thing to God within a man, but still have that balance of being stern and being a man. Don't a woman just want no, I'm not going to say a cream puff, but a woman doesn't really want just a guy that's just, for the most high, soft and loving and all that. Like she want that manly, that like, you feel me? So, you know, it's always balance with everything that we do. So it's finding balance within the music and still giving them dope music. You know?
I'm looking forward to it.
No, man, I'm excited. I'm excited. Like I said, I want to drop it now, but I ended up creating an intro for it, and I took one record off because I created it like 3 years ago, and it wasn't like the vibe wasn't right. So I ended up recreating the record, and now it's just playing the waiting game now with my engineers and my videographers for the team to get everything shot. But the project is most definitely, I know the project is going to change the culture of the city.
That's good. That's what we need, culture change.
Yeah,
right?
most definitely.
And so last but not least, you know, I always ask, you know, the youth spotlight, because I feel like I done kind of grasp youth from all different kind of backgrounds. And the point behind this is just to showcase how you ain't got to be no old person to do stuff in this world.
No,
like we
period.
can kind of work where we are, how we are, to change the dynamics and the environments in which we live in. And so any advice that you would give to a young person out here that's just trying to better their situation, or shoot, the young rapper that want to get off the couch and be something, you know, like, what's some advice for our young people?
Spirit comes first. Don't look outside of yourself for anything, or don't aspire or follow after anyone. Talk to your inner man. Talk to the Most High. Seek Him first. You know what I mean? And everything else is going to fall in line with whatever we're supposed to do. And I say that because a lot of times throughout life, we go through life trying to figure out our purpose. Who are we supposed to be with? How are we supposed to do this? And we ask all of the wrong people and all of the wrong things. You know what I mean? So I would say seek the Most High first. Seek the Spirit first. And everything else is going to be added to you. You know, and if for aspiring artists and rappers, and know this game, because this game can get shady. And if you in it for the money, the fame, the women and all of that, you going to get funneled right into whatever else all these other rappers is doing on a whole nother deeper level and a spiritual level. So, you know, seek the Most High first and keep them as your rock. That's what I say, for sure. Because everything else is easy. The money, the cars, the clothes, whatever you want to do for your family, the bag is going to be here. But if your spirit ain't right, then you going to get funneled into the other side. So, you know, yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for this interview.
Man, it's love.
It's nothing but good
I
energy.
love doing interviews.
Good
I love
vibes.
doing interviews. Always.
I just feel like this show really is going to take people to another level, because it's this type of vibe and energy that we need in the city.
Oh, yeah, no, not even the city. Like, we about to take this worldwide.
Oh, definitely.
Like, I've been sitting back the past couple of years just studying the game. So now, like, it's really time to push that limit. Because, like I said, we don't have a leader. We don't have a 23-year-old. Like, we have Kendrick for our generation. Kendrick. That's it. So, like, we don't have nobody that's 23 that's really on the same wave and can be that's in the conversations with these guys. Because, like, I'm humbled to be able to even be in a conversation with a Kendrick, a Nas, a Jay-Z. Like, when my name is brought up in the city, like, to be compared on that level and that statue is honorable. You know, so that keeps my pen going. That make me go even harder to know that, like, some of them 6, 10, 15 years older than me, and I'm in the same conversations with them. So, you know, and it's not a competitive thing. It's just, it keep me on my game.
Well, I'm so inspired by all that you're doing. Like, it is really where we need to be. I think we need more energy like it. And I just thank you for being a part of this interview. And I hope that you all can sit back, relax, and enjoy this performance from our brother, Yah LC.
Let's get it.
We've been trapped in the land of the slave owners. Visions of taking this land over. Last name not ours. And my people rather ride in Range Rovers than spill the agenda and game on us. We so far from the truth. Tell me how we gonna raise up a better youth when it's blood every time we turn on the news. Now I ain't the type to tell you that I got all of the answers to your questions, but you looking at a nigga who ain't got nothing to lose. Check it. Take the mind and watch the body fall in line. Break the will to resist in the system of broken cries, yeah. Take their beliefs and give them whatever, God, you feel is appropriate. They won't notice it in due time. And break the woman mind, because without it, she can't raise no leader. Destroy their history, they'll never question what you teach them. Dependent is the way to keep them. And they can't read and write, so what's right, they'll never know if you breed them. Look, in the opposite direction of the truth. Tell them they Savior white and they niggas and not the Jews. Tell them what you want out the Bible because you wrote it and your words depend on their survival. And now we quote it. We've been lost in the system for a while now. It's sad it took 400 years for us to find out. Yeah. Play these cards and we all been in the grave. Follow these commandments and you will make you a slave. Shalom.